see, Joan Goddard's here. So I
Joan.
forgot of the last minutes. I hope you all saw the revision 1 of the minutes that I sent half an hour ago. So let's see, I think
Put it in chat or someplace.
if somebody knows, it never works for me to put things in the chat from the agenda. Hopefully you've all got the agenda in front of you.
Yes.
What? You think we printed an agenda out?
Okay. So who's that? Okay, we're being recorded. We're also being live streamed. And who's that sitting behind Robin and Diane, who I don't recognize? Unmute.
I was just going to attend for part of the meeting because I was interested in the subject. My name is Glynis Kevin, and I am a recent WILPF member.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Can
Good.
Can you type your name in the chat, please?
Okay.
And contact information, please.
On the
also.
computer, here, do you want to take?
Okay.
Can
All
you
right.
hear me?
Yes, yes. So let's see.
Season Pro, she's just listing your name.
Okay. I have had regrets from Gloria Macmillan. She's not coming. Glynis Kivan. Okay.
Got an extra A. But,
Kevin.
okay.
You're a Vermonter?
I am.
Great, great. So Ellen, do you think we've got a quorum? We're 11, but really it says 11, but we're more like 13 because Robin and Diane and Glynis are all on one screen.
This off.
So Ellen, I put you as facilitator. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, I've got to find I just got here and I need to find the
Agenda.
agenda. Yeah.
And I see there's a fan going in the room I'm in, which I find annoying on other people's screens. So I'm going to turn my fan off.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I look at it. It's like a centrifuge.
What is it?
Just
Fun.
If it's keeping you cool, you should enjoy it.
right. And you can always just slightly angle your screen.
Oh, there, you did it. Where was it? Oh,
I think it's slowing down. I'm here in Santa Cruz where it's not as cold as, as hot as if I were in Palo Alto. Okay, I think.
in both pictures.
Welcome, Glynis.
Okay. All right, Ellen, are you about to put the agenda in the chat or you're just going to start us?
As soon as I find it.
I resent it at 7 o'clock your time.
Yes. Let's see. I can check the time. Maybe
There
on
it is. There it is. I
Um,
found it.
Ellen holds a world record for how many emails she gets every day.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
All right, so
All right. So we're asking for a note taker, a vibes watcher, and a timekeeper. Do we have any volunteers?
Vibes Watcher.
Okay. And
who
a
was
note
that?
taker.
Margot?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be timekeeper, McGregor.
Okay, Margot.
I could take some notes, but they will have to be sent to
Cheryl.
Ellen or to Cheryl for correction.
Right. That's fine, Odile. That's what we do every time.
Okay.
It's also being recorded,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can listen to the recording when.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. Oh,
And
deal.
here's the date.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I will have
Okay,
time.
that seems to be taken care of. So now we check in 1 minute maximum each, where you're from and something personal. And if you're on the agenda, then please don't talk about what you're going to be talking about later. So I'm going to call on Cheryl, and then you call on somebody, Cheryl.
All right, so Cheryl Spencer, the co-chair of this illustrious committee. I'm sitting in Santa Cruz on the coast of Northern California because I'm attending the Cabrillo Festival of Contemporary Music. And the last concert starts at 7. I have to leave this meeting at 6:30, and I will also be going to heat up my dinner briefly and eating my dinner so I can get out of here. Ellen Primack, the executive director of that festival, has been director for 33 years. So this is her farewell concert. A piece of music has been composed in her honor. It's a world premiere. Anyway, so I've been enjoying this Cabrillo Festival with all kinds of composers here. They're all mostly alive. So you actually get to hear the composer before they give their piece. The piece is played by the orchestra. You get what was in their mind, you know, and it's really, it's lovely to have the composer there. Okay, Judith Hand, calling on you.
Okay, this is Judith Hand in San Diego. They say you should have something personal. Well, my personal thing is that I had a leak in a pipe in my house. And when they finally found where the water was arranged and they opened up the drywall, the plumber came in and he took one look at the pipes and he said, I have very bad news for you. He said, that piping that you have there is a kind that is no longer legal to be repaired in California. I won't repair it, and no reputable plumber will repair it. If you get a plumber who will come in and at least plug that leak, he will not guarantee his work because you will be having other leaks from this very bad piping. So what you need to do, lady, is repipe your whole house.
Didn't you
I
tell us
have,
this last month?
what?
I thought you told us this last month.
Not last month. I didn't know it last month.
Okay.
No, that was some other friend that
No,
it happens. A lot of people have done it. I've been talking to people. My next door neighbor, she did it 15 years ago and whatever. So it just happens to be my trauma. But anyway, there are
Hey, Judith,
20
did
holes
you
in
get
the
a
walls.
second opinion?
What?
Did you get a second
Oh
opinion?
yeah, I got a second and a third. My next door neighbor also had to tear the same piping out. The guy who's the Mercury insurance agent, when he heard what kind of piping it was, he said, oh yeah, you'll never be able to get a mortgage on this house. You will never be able to sell this house without either doing the piping yourself or having it done before you put it up for sale. And then I would have to live with the dread that it could burst at any time. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. Quite an expense. But what really annoys me is it tears up your house.
Yeah.
Can you choose the next person to
next
check
person?
in, Judith?
Yeah, Joan Goddard.
how much time do each of us have
A
to?
minute, supposedly.
Supposed to be a minute.
1 minute?
Yeah, well, it was good that you shared, Judith. And I'll be really quick, so that'll average it out. Joan Goddard in the San Jose branch, South San Francisco Bay Area. And I had a good thing, but it was very minor. And so I'm just going to pass it along and say, I've been really lucky. And so I'm going to call on Odile.
Well, we think that it's very hot here, but actually, since I came on July 12, we had 13-time rain and a very big storm this night. So anyway, this is it for me.
You are in France.
I am in France in Burgundy, and it's what time here? 1:42 in the morning.
Bless your heart.
Thank you.
Call on somebody, Odile.
Hélène Thomas,
Okay, can you see me? I can't see whether or not you can
I
see.
just see you in the dark.
Really?
We see your glasses.
Okay.
You can sort of see your hair and your face.
All right. Well, that light that is showing my glasses and face, other than the screen on the computer, is my new solar tube, because I have a very dark house, and I got 4 new solar tubes coming down through the roof, and a new roof, because in the last big storm it leaked all over the place. So that's my personal news. And I'm in the mountains of North Carolina, and I'm glad to see everybody. Eileen.
Oh, Eileen is recovering from a wonderful few days in Burlington. Not Burlington. You know where that came from, Robin. From Rochester, Vermont. We came back. I went with Virginia Pratt for my branch, and we had a whirlwind of, oh my gosh, so many wonderful speakers, so much food, so many nice connections. I came back with so many ideas and energized, and I'm exhausted just thinking of all the things I want to think more about, including having sessions of nonviolent communications. I'd love to get some training as a groupie. Okay, now that I dropped it, I am not ready to do any reports on AI. What's AI? Let's see, what's AI? That's where my mind is on AI. And you know, I know a little more than that about AI. Artificial intelligence, that's what it stands for. So much for me. Who hasn't gone? Because I came in late. Andre, have you gone? Oh, she read. Oh.
Margot.
Yes.
Margot,
McGregor.
please go.
Okay. This is Margot Schulzer from Newfoundland Territory in Sacramento, California. And I believe I'm unmuted. And just quickly, what's happening personally is I have an idea for a working group, and I'll try to keep this to 1 minute. And just it's inspired by a great event in 1993 when our illustrious co-chair Cheryl Spencer was awarded the Spectrum Award of the IEE. I guess that's the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers for science education. And I thought maybe we should have a working group in WILPF and possibly an issues committee, which would be called Expanding Our Horizons. We'd focus on STEM, STEMM, that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, and how they can. And I know that we have many members. Of course, Cheryl is perhaps the best known one, but not the only one, who have had careers in these areas. And we look at how STEM can be used for advocacy for peace and social justice. And that's my idea now. That's my personal idea that makes me feel very enthusiastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margot.
I want to wish Cheryl a beautiful trip to Oxford. I understand you're leaving at the end of the month for Oxford. I want to wish you the best trip.
Oh, okay, you want to name somebody else, Margot?
Yes, who else hasn't spoken?
Robin
This
has.
is McGregor.
Oh, Robin.
Okay, so just feeding on what Eileen said, we had a great meeting. 50 people turned up on Saturday, although the critique was already made that there were not enough young people and there were not enough new people being drawn to the issue of end the war in Ukraine. But the two speakers were terrific. The food was good and the weather was wonderful. And here we are still in the sunset of rural Vermont. Thank you.
And you can say more in agenda item 4B.
Yeah, Diane.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Diane Blay. I'm in the Jane Addams branch, and I'm secretary of WILPF US. And we had a great time, and we're having it still. I'm the only person left besides Glynis, and Robin's here. So anyway, that's it.
Glynis, speak up.
Hi, Eileen, I really liked that you said that because that was our private conversation from the most informal conversation the first night. I was here supporting the food and shopping and a lot of other things, but I love the organization and been sort of on the sidelines of watching the different kinds of speakers and the issues and the topics, of which many of course, speak to things I want to know more about, know something about, but I'm not involved in a group like this. And through Robin and knowing Robin, I've decided I will be involved in this group.
Wonderful.
And we had a conversation about at the dinner about how certain kinds of psychological constructs actually, the same thing that happens that causes dysfunction in families, it is actually also the way leadership affects countries, people, populations, companies, corporations, many things people would not do if they had a conscience, but we were talking about narcissism as a construct within that. And Eileen and a few other people said, well, what can you do to cure that? And I didn't think I had an answer, but I realized I have thought for a long time that non-violent language patterns are a very key thing that should be integrated before anybody even hears the word STEM. And learning to use general population of people, learning to communicate effectively, retaining their sense of who they are without having to diminish another. And I think that is a lot of what filters societally, governments. So it's just something that I'm actually interested in and decided I actually would like to work on doing something more of a presentation where I look at some research. I've read little things about this, and I want to put it together because it's something that I really think will make a difference. And
Thank you.
Well, welcome. Welcome.
That's what I'm saying.
Andre, would you like to?
McGregor, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, McGregor, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm the timekeeper. I can't be the timekeeper because I'm just on audio. I can't signal you. No one is taking track. We're 21 minutes into this. I will forgo anything I want to share and tell everybody to get a move on.
Okay. Andre.
Yes, thank you. Peace and love, everyone. For the summer, August is a time of birthdays in my family, so I've been celebrating, and my friends, I've been celebrating. So it's been a nice time. And I'm in Boston, a member of the Boston branch, and same as Eileen. And we vigil together every Monday, Eileen and I and a few others. And I'm really excited because there's a new group of women that's they issued an urgent call to mothers and grandmothers. Stop war. Love it.
Great. Thank you. Hideko.
Hi. I'm Hideko Tamura, Hiroshima survivor, with a background of where after bomb was dropped the next day when the picture was taken of this by the American military. And I'm appearing for anybody who was asking to talk to me on Zoom with this picture because I want to be very consistent and visual, discouraging anything to do with nuclear weapons use. Thank you.
Thank you, Hideko. You've had a rough couple of weeks here, I know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, just to add one more sentence. Most traumatized this year, about 78. I believe because I got, pulled into Oppenheimer production, and tons of people were asking me about it. And I was just beside myself. Then I was saved. My family came to visit. They left. But all of a sudden, when my granddaughter, who was actually born on August 6th, I was lifted up. I was no longer traumatized. That it wasn't completely death dominating, but I was able to see a daughter born, granddaughter born, life continue. That was so encouraging to me. Thank you.
Philip,
Yes, good afternoon. And I am just driving into San Francisco. I left my house, it was 73 degrees. I drove 3 miles and now it's 56 degrees. So I'm enjoying the little break here. Thank you.
Martha,
Martha, Freeport, Maine, checking in. Nice to see everyone.
I wish I could see you. Joan, have you spoken?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I
Thank you.
apologize.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's okay.
thank you, everybody. I think everyone's spoken now, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, short reports on WILPF actions since the last meeting. If not on the agenda, Andre would like time to speak on an emergency plan at a future meeting.
Yeah, that he's on the agenda later.
Okay, all right.
5A.
Okay. So does anyone have anything that you want to change on the July 9th or the July 30th?
30th.
30th, that's a mistake there.
You're not looking at the right agenda, Ellen.
Oh, I'm looking at the
There's
minute.
30th
I'm looking at
in the right agenda.
Okay, all right. You're right. Okay. So the 30th of July that we're
And I already received some grammar and spelling mistakes that Joan found. And she also noticed she was not on the attendee list. So I've made all those corrections and I sent the revised minutes with R1 at the end of their file name to you all at 4 o'clock Pacific time.
So does anyone have any objections to our approving the minutes as Cheryl sent them, or should we wait until the next meeting to finally vote on this? Since Cheryl has.
This is McGregor. This is McGregor.
Yes.
Thank you, Cheryl, for all your hard work, and I vote we approve them.
Right, because they did not substantially change from what everybody got yesterday.
Was, we misspelt McGregor's name, we lost an A. We misspelt Angeli's, we lost an E, and so on and so forth. And then we didn't have Joan on the attendee list. So that's all, there's nothing of substantial change.
Okay, all right. So the next thing is the hot topics, Ukraine. Cheryl, you want to talk about that?
Yes, and this is just continuing what I told you at the last meeting. We are going to have a global week of action, September the 30th to October the 8th. And we're going to, people are choosing different things to do. So this will be in many countries, not just the US, many different peace organizations. The Peace in Ukraine organization that you see there in the agenda there are over 100 organizations. We're trying to get everybody to think of things they can do that week. And last time we talked about teach-ins, and the only people who thought they might do a teach-in was me and Jean, who's not here today. I have not had time to make any more progress on that, but the point is to educate the public about the war in Ukraine and the fact that it needs to be stopped through diplomatic means, that sending more weapons isn't going to help. So this is the story that you've heard now for 15 months. This is the Peace in Ukraine mantra, okay? But the public in general is not hearing this. And talking of young people, going to your colleges, your local college is where you're going to find the young people. And they will, you go to the dean of outreach or whatever, and you ask them, can we have a teach-in that would involve some of your professors who know about Ukraine? Most colleges have historians and people like that who could speak to Ukraine, the history, And then you maybe put in some people from a peace organization or an anti-war organization who can give the point of view that we need to, you know, find the diplomatic steps. And we have the Pope on our side. We have many, many people of great stature who are saying enough already. So I'm hoping there's resources there on the agenda and the suggestions of things you could do. So please, if you're in a branch, this is a good opportunity for you to get your branch around something. If you're an individual, just writing to your local newspaper during that week and pointing out that there is hundreds of organizations across the world calling for peace in Ukraine.
Could I have the dates of the week again?
Yes, September the 30th to October the 8th.
So that's 2 weekends.
It includes 2 weekends. It's probably over. It's called a global week, but I think it's actually more than a week. But anyway, so, you know, I'm going to be working with my community college is my idea. That week, most colleges and universities should be back in session. And so you just work out, you know, with your local colleges, because the community college is where you're going to find the, you know, generally speaking, poorer students who are another whole demographic we should be reaching. So they understand, you know, that all this money's been spent on these war weapons and not on helping them pay for their community college tuition and things like that. So I see Jean has now joined us. Jean, did you actually make any progress in talking to your old college about having a teacher? And you need to unmute.
I haven't, and I need to follow up. I got very caught up because I had family in Maui. So
Right.
preoccupied with that.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, you know, unless anybody's actually made some plans, I'm just going to leave it at that. I will be writing to the branches list to try to engage. Yes, Robin.
Yes, my idea is to look perhaps in your back emails or newspapers or something. So many events happened in our area to support Ukraine in terms of gathering money and so on, and to reach out to those people and to suggest meeting them and hearing what they think now, and seeing if their minds have changed and whether they understand a lot of the background to it. Might be a very low-key but effective way to have an event happen during that week of attention on Ukraine.
Does not have to be associated with a college. It would just be a general meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Eileen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have finished a book that needs to be reread, I have to admit. It is called, and let me put it in the chat right now. It's in the chat. Here's the way the book looks. I had to go to King, New Hampshire to pick it up just before I went to the gathering, and then read it really fast, which I don't do usually. I'm a slow reader. The $1 trillion silencer, why there is so little anti-war protest in the United States, by retired professor from Keene State, Joan Roloffs, who is highly admired by many of the people who knew of her at the gathering in Rochester. Why did I bring this up? For one, it's because I found in this book that there are so many, did I say many colleges that are doing work for the military industrial complex, MIC. And it so happens BU used to have a big club,
in the library,
anti-war club. at the time Pat Hines was working there. It no longer has it. However, when I was working with an intern at BU, and I asked her, well, why don't you have this? She didn't know, and her professor didn't admit to knowing, which made me wonder. And I've decided that if this environmental study group or club at BU is interested in this sort of thing, I am going to go ahead and blend environment with the anti-war message, at least reach maybe 20, maybe 30 people. So that's another way to get your foot in the door. Thank you.
Odile?
We in Ann Arbor, we have a group that does weekly vigils for the war in Ukraine. So we will do our weekly vigil and we might do something more. But I wanted to remind you all that Peace Day is September 21, and also the President of the UN, I can't think of his name right this minute, is calling for an environmental forum to stop the gasoline from being used. So if you go to the UN page, you will see on the 20th, it's environmental forum, and then September 21 is Peace Day. So it is good to have both of them connected in some way. That's a good idea.
Environmental what?
It's called the Climate Ambition. Climate Summit Ambition.
So, yes, thank you, Odile. So
And
actually,
it's called by the UN.
right. Diffuse nuclear war, which I didn't put in the agenda because I thought there was enough, is having another week ahead of that, where they will be calling for, getting rid of nuclear weapons and pointing out their possible use in Ukraine. So there's actually like 20 days of stuff that we should be doing, including the International Day of Peace, September the 21st. Leafleting at your local farmers market is the easiest thing you can do. You go to that resources page that I've given you there in the agenda, and you will find ready-made leaflets for you to print out. And I've done this standing at your local farmers market and handing those out and trying to engage people in just taking the leaflet is good enough, but if you can engage them, so please, that's about the simplest thing you could try to do. And I think that's probably enough on this topic. And
Okay, so the next is current campaigns.
no, you've missed 4B.
4B, reports on the Vermont WILPF gathering. Yes.
And some of you've already said some things, so perhaps you could not take the 8 minutes that I gave you, take less, as you've already said some things.
You want to unmute, Robin?
Oh, okay. Well, to have Medea Benjamin amongst us, who I think is the most passionate person speaking about the war, the waste on the war, the way in which our taxes are going to buy weapons, and which has had the effect of militarizing our society here at home and destroying that beautiful country with all of its wonderful fields growing wheat that are now being trampled with tanks running all over it, sent by us. She was just fantastic. She must be 5'2" or something when she stood up there, a small person with a beautiful voice. And so we had a good discussion afterwards. We had a discussion before with the Nuclear Ban US and Vicky
Vicky Elson and Tim and
Vicky
Wallace.
Elson
Right.
spoke. Her husband stayed home, but he came on Zoom and talked with us also. And she made the connections between, between nuclear weapons and nuclear power, which many people in the group have had the experience of trying to get rid of Vermont Yankee. And we succeeded, and Vermont Yankee is closed down, but the waste is still there by the river, by the Connecticut River. And the question is what to do with it. So we're still watching that. And so we know here very much that no new nuclear plants should be built because the solution for the fuel, the wasted fuel, has not been made. But Diane, you say something.
Oh, it's just been a great weekend. There were so many different topics. That was some, but the discussions at night and just over meals, it was just very stimulating.
And
I don't really have that much to add. I'm more absorbing the way the structure of the organization runs, and I'm thinking about ideas and ways that you can get people from different areas that want to be a part of WILPF and
Right.
step into the next generation of WILPF. And I don't have anything completely formalized yet, but I have a few ideas.
Couldn't hear
So I will talk about it when I have more to say.
Yeah.
But I do have a few ideas concerning Montpelier, where I currently work, and a lot of people that I work with they're all human service people, but many people are coming from different countries and such to work in these fields now, because we're not even attracting that many Americans to work in human service here. But I just feel like I want to understand more about WILPF and speak more about it in the areas that I encounter.
yeah, and let me just add that she talks about working in Montpelier. Well, Montpelier was flooded, was drowned. I mean, our communities are really feeling the climate change impact. And so, some communities it's too hot, some it's too cold, and then some are too wet and some are too dry. And we were really inundated with mud. I mean, the mud was just throughout, and businesses were destroyed.
The entire downtown.
Of the entire downtown of Montpelier. Not to say of what's happening in Hawaii right now, that a whole community was burned up. I mean, my cousin lives over there, and I haven't found out yet what happened to him. So, this seems to be a summer of the incredible impact of climate change becoming real for a lot of communities.
This is McGregor. It's 5:10.
So shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the current campaigns, I believe that I'm in the right place now. First is continue to press for disarmament, and we've got Andre, McGregor, and Cheryl each speaking. Andre, would you like to start? You've been given 15 minutes, but given the fact that we've kind of run over, if you can keep it as tight as possible, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. Good evening and namaste, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. I'm a 21-year WILPF member and would like to propose an emergency plan. Evidence shows that the governments are not going to change and react fast enough to affect climate change or stop the war in Ukraine. We have to diminish the threats to the world that the war in Ukraine has created. And this proposal is about women attaining power, political power, to stop war. That's WILPF's original mission. So the following is a plan to unite the people of the world based upon the fact that there's grassroots organizations everywhere and the leadership to bring them together. And there are specific women leaders that can make it happen, such as Beatrice Finn from ICANN and Naomi Klein from the climate movement. And I have a strategy prepared to enlist these women leaders and others to start a chain reaction of women leaders coming together. And the purpose is to start a new global peace movement led by women, but not exclusive to women. And it's ready now. One last step remains. So I believe this is the time we have to go beyond the norm. And so I'm here to ask for your assistance with to help me start the chain reaction. And I have a specific strategy I'll get to in a few moments. But disarmament is at the heart of the plan. It's the political goal. And to get to the heart, we need women in every country. So the plan is to reach into every household, the words that we use, to create the largest people movement the world has ever seen. And so, but I want to tell you a little about me so you know who I am and why I'm doing this. I started after 9/11, and I went to my first peace conference, AFSC, and I read WILPF's materials. I knew it was for me. And then in 2007, I read Laura Roscoe's and Gillian Gilhool and Mary Day Kent's 2007 article, A Coordinated Strategy to Prevent War, A Woman's Agenda. Wow, I loved it. I sent it out today, but I've saved it and I read it because it was fantastic. And then in WILPF's slogan in 2015 inspired me, women's power to stop war. This says it all. And Code Pink's slogan, women say no to war. So I was excited. I developed a plan. I networked with Helen Caldicott, Ela Gandhi, Yolanda King, Cora Weiss, Nobel laureates Lema Gabowi and Mairead Maguire, Medea Benjamin, all planting seeds because I come from a business background. I was a manager in restaurants, country clubs, and hotels. That's where this all comes from. This is pink, by the way. It comes out white on the screen. But I was entrepreneurial and was always developing new ideas. I hope to use my knowledge and expertise to help facilitate women leading the way for peace, world peace. I was very fortunate. I met former Director General of UNESCO, Federico Mayor, and he introduced me to the UN Secretary General. This told me that I was on the right track because Federico said, yes, women, and he was all for it. And I presented the plan to Guterres's staff, and now I'm ready to return to meet Guterres to set the plan in motion. And Guterres is key for many, many reasons. So I've got a complete business plan that's prepared that provides the means for the women leaders to operate because they're so busy. So it's a plan to start and sustain the movement to include the funding, the team, and a marketing plan. So many dignitaries, women and men, for example, Prime Minister of Canada, Kim Campbell, and former president of the Interparliamentary Union, Gabriela Cuevas Barón from Mexico, were ready to join me, but in 2020, and then COVID came along and derailed things. And then they were busy and I've sort of lost them now. So I'm revamping the strategy, but it all comes down to that truth to power, that even with all the great initiatives and amazing scholars and think tanks, the world crises are getting worse and the war in Ukraine is spinning out of control. So we need something different. And I believe if women rise up and unite as the peacemakers proactively, it'll change the world, but if they don't, there'll be no change. We lose it. We need it now because all the webinars I've been on are saying things are getting more dangerous. So I think we have an amazing opportunity. The climate movement is now women from everywhere. All kinds of groups are starting up. And there's a group called Women's Earth and Climate Network. Osprey Oriole Lake is the founder. And she said, quote, "It's time for a fierce, loving call for a global women's movement. We are in the fight of our lives. There's no doubt about it. The only way is to lock arms and stand in solidarity." So this, for me, this statement is exactly what's needed for the women leaders to say about peace. Right now, it's time.
So do you have something in writing, Andre, that you can share?
Yes.
This?
I do, and I'll send it. I have the emergency plan to send to you prepared. So I believe my request is that the Disarm group helps to enlist women leaders. And I have a brief little, I'd like to share my screen now, because what if Beatrice Finn was giving this presentation about an emergency plan? And she says, let's have a big meeting. Probably everyone would want to attend because she has power. And that's what this is based on, that the women leaders, the grassroots organizations are everywhere, and women are already rising up. So we know that from Women's March on Washington, the women in Iran, the women waged peace in Israel, in Jerusalem. So I'd like to share my screen.
Yeah, you can do that. You tested it before, right?
Yes. I believe that the scales are not balanced. There's a behemoth holding down the corporations, economics, patriarchy, and the military, and people's mindset. We have to unite. Women can do it. Women, if the women leaders come together. And so I propose this new movement with different segments for the operating system and structure, the startup, the operational plan, 24 major events in the first 2 years. So everyone knows that something's coming. So we have all of September. That's 1 month, and then it goes into October. But now we want to tell the people, this is ready. It's actually a 3-year segment of a 10 to 30-year plan. We want to tell them that this is what we're doing. And then there's a 3 phases, and then also 2 major segments of the new narrative, committing to nonviolence. That's what Gandhi and King would do. And then say the constructive segment, committing to working together for humanity. And that's where most of the funding will go. And therefore, the women leaders would have, there'd be a proclamation, a declaration, and the way that Eileen was saying, yes, we need nonviolence communication. It's all right there in the proclamation that says, we, the women, will ask men to join us to proclaim that we will not allow war in the world anymore. And there are many women, but these 3 women right here can enlist their entire constituencies. They have that much authority and power. Naomi Klein can enlist the whole climate movement, and Beatrice Finn, the whole anti-nuclear movement, to say, this is it. The governments aren't doing it. Alice Walker, in connection with Black Lives Matter and the civil rights movement, all those leaders that are still alive, they're still out there promoting nonviolence. And the global South has been promoting nonviolence more than anyone in the world. They're doing a great job. So I simply propose, yes. Yeah.
I thank you, McGregor. Let's let him finish, okay?
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I simply propose that the women leaders that start the chain reaction, all the women Nobel Peace Laureates, especially Lema Gaboui, she stopped the war with women and nonviolence tactics, Gandhi tactics. And then there's been so many. Judith Handel talked to you about the women of the Global Summit 2009. She was the secretary that took notes of that summit. I've been in contact with Women Wage Peace, as I mentioned, in Jerusalem. And then all the elders and the UN and all the Nobel laureates coming together. Here's a list of the women leaders that I've networked with, planting seeds. If they see these women leaders doing it, they'll all join it. I can see it. I don't know why, but I get excited because I can feel the energy. Then there's a marketing plan that goes with it, because I come from a business background. So I planned every day before the first event. Once it's announced, those women and those groups of people announce that it's coming. Simple as that. And then every day until it starts, there's all the organizations around the world. All these organizations will have one day to announce to their constituents around the world that things are happening and we're uniting. And why? As I don't have to tell you, but there was a group called Moms Demand Action when the children were killed in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. And this is their poster, and it says it all. To defend our children in the future, we will conquer all. So lastly, it's the Prince William and Princess Kate were here in Boston, and this article was proof to me, and I'll send it to everyone, that all the rich people, all the government officials and government elected officials, the state representatives and so on, wanted to know what they were saying. It was about climate, but they attracted attention and funding. And that's what this plan is about, to do the same thing that Princess Kate and Prince William did. So in conclusion, the plan is about attaining political clout. And it's a macro plan to get attention, to unite the world and deliver the message. And then we implement the micro initiatives of World Beyond War and International Peace Bureau. It's not just about women, it's about bringing the peace groups together. And Judith Hand's plan for a future without war. So I'm asking for Disarm to set up 2 meetings. That's all. Make it simple so that people can ask me questions, that I can discuss the details, the strategy to begin, and why Guterres has to participate. So thank you for the time. What stimulated this was Margot Schulter wrote this profound statement: an international women's movement for nonviolent alternatives to war is critically important. She hit it on the head. Unfortunately, we're not prepared to be nonviolent, and if we don't, we lose. So I'm asking you to help me with this, with 2 meetings before something terrible happens, an incident or an accident, or a crazy person does something drastic. Cheryl, in the last meeting, asked for ideas and new campaigns. So I'm asking this to be a new campaign, just 2 meetings. And then, so we can strategize together. So
meetings of the Disarm Committee and people interested in working on this. That's who you imagine going to those 2 meetings?
Correct. Yes. To see it, I know everyone's busy, but I'm just asking for the strategizing for this to help enlist the women leaders. I've got other things in the works that I can talk to you about from many different organizations. So I'm trying to now bring it all together. It's probably not going to happen as the way I envision it. That's okay. But yes, there's something here. That's what Margot alluded to. That's what, and I'd like to finish with a quote by Mary Robinson, chair of the elders. And she said, quote, "We are faced by a gathering storm of extinction level consequences, and time is running out. We cannot continue with business as usual. A global movement of nonviolence led by women is not the usual plan." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andre. The idea of 2 meetings is good, but how would this work out? Would it be that there would be meetings on a certain date? I don't think we intend to have it be part of the Disarm Committee regular meetings. It would be a special meeting, right?
Yes, correct.
And is
I
there?
would say I could send out a Zoom link for everyone.
Yeah, why don't you do a what is it called when you have a calendar of
Doodle poll.
a doodle poll? Yeah.
But you need to send us your PowerPoint presentation that you just alluded to, and there were many pages that you didn't show us.
And an email with your
Yes, I shall.
with your
Thank you.
proposal. Yeah. Jean,
And
your hand
yeah.
raised.
What is the focus of the August meeting, which is upon us? But what is the focus of that Congress?
The WILPF gathering, you mean?
Yes, well, it was called Congress at one time.
Diane can answer that question.
It's fully occupied. It's fully programmed. There is
Diane.
no space anywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen the schedule. I know it's full.
We could make the meetings fairly short because I would present some of the facts, the details, and then we can disperse. But at least I can, if you have questions, you can ask me questions and I can get the main details out because there's so much. But I've tried to simplify it and I've been complimented by my ability to simplify it. So then everyone can think about it and we have the second meeting. And then that's what I'm asking for. I need some help and some ideas and women enlisting women, not me enlisting women.
Right.
I've tried my best to prepare a plan as a guideline, and once it starts, it'll go off in all kinds of different ways. But for me, the most important thing is to get the movement started. The world wants to see something. And what better than reaching into every household to women, say, women, this is our opportunity. Not me saying that, but Beatrice Finn and you women and so on. So unite under one umbrella.
I would like to make a proposal. I have this time on all Sundays set aside for the Disarm Committee, and we could have a meeting on alternative Sundays. Does anybody have any objection to that idea?
I can say that I'm going to be in Europe, in England, in the middle of September. I'm trying to get you all to do something in this global week. Personally, I would like to put it off for a couple of months. And I don't know about what other people's schedules look
Eileen,
like.
you've got your hand raised.
I do, because I have appreciated Andre's presentation before. This is even more sophisticated, and I appreciate that even more. Actually, I have to say this, and this will sound pushy, but this book that I just put into the chat talks about how much the military-industrial complex has infiltrated almost every aspect of our lives. I think, Andre, you need to read this, and all of us, if you want to go forward, because I think you might find some things to think about and use in the process of doing this, because you've got to address what is in this book. All the various ways that in the big money, people depend on it because they want to further cultural arts. They want a job in every state. Remember all the places where, like Raytheon and other I'm talking about contractors like Raytheon. I'm talking about subcontractors. I'm talking about subcontractors. And guess what? Even the disabled, the environmental group, like Nature Conservancy, gets mucho bucks from the military industrial complex. It's a nightmare. And somehow we have to plan this in a way that considers this. And that's where I figured we really needed to not get mad, which is my tendency with this whole thing, but learn to do that nonviolent communication. We need it more than ever now. We don't want to start a fight.
Thank you, Eileen. We've got more people with hands raised here.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
Joan and then Robin, please.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Eileen. No need to apologize. What I was thinking was, as far as the timing, possibly we could have the first meeting before September or whatever, but mostly I think we need to be, I know, Andre, you have done a lot of thinking and contacting people and so on, especially those well-known folks, but we also need to be watching for additional women who may not be as well known. And we could do that during the September weeks that were talked about earlier, and plan to have either the first and second or the second meeting in October. That was my only thought. Thank you.
Robin?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oops. Okay. Yes, Andre, thank you for a wonderful presentation, and it's very inspiring, and I would like us to get it going as soon as possible. My only suggestion is maybe you should make your pitch with a co-chair, with a woman, you and the woman side by side, because you're a very handsome guy with a beautiful mustache, but you're not a woman, and you're talking about women, and I just make that as a suggestion.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been working at that, and there were two women, their grandmothers as well, and they were with me for years, and they both now have their children coming back to their house, and they have illness, and so they were with me all the time, and they would have been here, but now for the past year they've not been with me because their lives are just so complicated. So yes, I would love, I love the idea, and I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Margot, would you like to speak? You need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say briefly, I heard the reference by Andre to Mary Robinson. I know that she was the former president of Ireland, of the Republic of Ireland, if I'm correct. Yeah. And it just reminded me, there was a book by Arthur Griffiths published in the early 20th century. It was called The Resurrection of Hungary, A Parallel for Ireland. It was talking about the use of nonviolent action from 1850, 1867 to win certain rights for Hungary in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And I just wonder what the history of Ireland might have been like if they had used nonviolence consistently to win their independence from Britain, and then to settle the issue of the north of Ireland. And so that was a very moving reference. I support the strong, I'm ready to participate in any meetings and do anything to help this succeed. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I look forward to seeing your, seeing what you have to send us, Andre, and to the next meeting that we have. McGregor, you were going to speak about progress on planning a live webinar about the upcoming ICBM test launch.
I did just put my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Judith, yes.
No problem. I'll keep it short. What I love about Andre's efforts and what he's put together, how he's succinctly summarized the women and the organizations, all of whom could make a fabulously powerful global movement. But what I have a problem with is seeing exactly what they would be doing. and what they would be working on. And I would love it if, for example, Andre would bring that information to join with the goal that I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting a goal that would suit, that it's big enough for all of those people to be working on, is a binding global peace treaty that would be directed at ending international warfare. This is not the time to explain how that would work, but just as an example, if you had such a treaty so that all nations knew that they would not be invaded, they would be reassured that they will not be invaded. They can shift their resources to doing other things, and they would not eventually need nuclear weapons. They could say, what are we spending money on supporting these nuclear weapons, building nuclear weapons, housing the nuclear weapons? For what reason? So I would just like to suggest that as a possible cause that those women and organization could be devoted to is what I'm trying to suggest after my years of study of the problem, which is getting a binding global peace treaty as the foundation for a whole lot of other good things. So that's my 2 cents.
I have a question. Has this been tried in any way before?
Well,
Jean, oh, yeah.
were you asking me? No.
You
Or-
go, Andre, and then Jean, you had your hand raised? Okay.
Oh, just a brief response to your question. When I saw the Women's March on Washington, I was just in heaven because they were doing it for not just for women's causes, but for the whole world, really, to say we want something different than what's going on. And they were just beginning. They didn't have leaders set up. They made some mistakes, and but what their main objective was fantastic, to say we want something different. And so there's been examples. The Women Wage Peace right now, I think, is fantastic. And the women that crossed the DMZ, that was the Nobel laureates, and Christine Ahn did a great job in bringing women together. Fantastic. So the template is already there. It's just a matter of tweaking it.
My question was about the treaty itself.
That's why. Oh, okay. So it was Judith. What you was
Question to me?
Directed to Judith. Okay, sorry.
Judith has a spot on the agenda later. She's got 8 minutes to talk about her ideas.
Jean has raised her hand several times.
Now, I've done a lot of organizing, especially in the peace movement against the war in Vietnam. And I want to emphasize that we have to be very, very focused, or we will get nothing done. We cannot take on the corporate world. A treaty involves diplomacy. We are not diplomats. So we have to be very, very focused. And thank you, Andre, for all your commentary and for your work, and all who have spoken. But it's really important to be very, very focused. Now, I've been watching Eleanor Roosevelt's biographical material on C-SPAN, or listening to it, or watching it, or whatever. And it takes a person of great stature to pull prominent people together. And so we have to consider all these factors. I have to say that if we talk about nuclear weapons, nuclear reactors spew off nuclear waste, which can be recycled into nuclear weapons. I mean, all of these things are interconnected. We've talked about our methodology. We've talked about who the leaders are. We've talked about getting prominent women. We probably need a small office somewhere to get started, but I think probably a couple of brainstorming meetings need to be set up immediately. I'm very enthusiastic about doing something. I think this is great. I'm so frustrated because I have family stuck in Maui. And I just am so horrified by what's happened there and many other places. So I really am impressed with what everybody is thinking, but I just want to emphasize that we can't be too overwhelmingly focused. We need to be narrowly focused.
Judith. Oh, Odile has her hand raised, and then Judith.
Well, I think this presentation is great, and I hope it does happen. But right now we have the NPT that's going terribly, and we have Reaching Critical Will that has many proposals for us to organize upon to change things. So I think we also have to look within on what we are doing and make it stronger rather than, I mean, I am not saying we shouldn't do it. I think, you know, it can happen on both sides, but I think it's very important for us to focus on the NPT and to be with Reaching Critical Will and their proposal, and to move forward on those things, because it is what they propose, to involve a lot of women and girls into the NPT and to change the quagmire that we are in right now as a fix. So we have to keep these goals for ourselves on the work that we have been doing also.
How many people are planning on going to the NPT this year?
You're confusing the NPT and the TPNW, okay? Odile is talking about the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and you'll see that it's on the agenda, and I'm going to scratch it because we're running out of time. I'm not going to talk about it today.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Isn't it over?
That's
Yes,
ridiculous because it's just finished
It's
and
just
it's
finished.
just happened, and that's when we should act.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I've been looking at the editorial. I promised you I would give you another summary. Personally, I didn't look beyond the editorial, Odile, so I didn't see what Reaching Critical Will was saying we should do. Have they got another? I mean, I read
Yes.
her
They
newsletters.
have at the end of all their newsletter, they have a statement, a final statement given by WILPF and by Reaching Critical Will. And so it's in our name. And if we don't do anything about it, then, you know, it's like we cannot jump for the sky without doing all the steps that we have to do along the way.
So
Yes.
what I was saying, that I wasn't going to, I've got the thing here. I was going to tell you about it, but we're running out of time. And
Then
so
we need another meeting just to discuss the NPT and Reaching Critical Will's proposal. We need another meeting. We cannot not, as WILPF US, discuss it.
okay, well, a lot of you come to these
I
meetings.
agree. I agree.
We ask for help and nobody turns up to help. I'm just, I can only do so much. And
Could we have a meeting next week, next Sunday? To discuss Andre's thing and the NPT, those two items?
Same time, same number.
what's the date next week? What's the actual date?
20th, the 20th.
Okay, let me look at my own diary.
I think both, merit discussion, and I think the sooner the better. I don't like to put things off too much.
No.
So at least get going and whatever. And since both items feel like they need to be discussed, we could do it next Sunday. And
Well,
only those people who want to come need to come. And
okay, well, I have.
Thank you, Odile.
Yes. And Diane.
Well, I'm busy until like 5 o'clock next Sunday.
Well, you can come when you come, and everybody else can come when they come.
Right.
You don't have to be the person who organizes this one.
At the rate we get the meetings started, Cheryl will just be getting going really well by 5 o'clock your time.
I actually think that maybe we should forego the intros because they always take more than a minute per person usually. And I think we should just, I think the discussion merits itself and we learn about each other that way. I don't think we need to have them, but I mean, it's up to you leaders.
I agree with you right there.
Who is going to be the organizer of it? Since Cheryl is going to be otherwise engaged.
Well, I think Ellen has agreed that she'll give us the Zoom link.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
yeah, the Zoom link is exactly the same. It's set up for every Sunday
Mrs. McGregor,
evening.
may I speak?
Yes, McGregor.
I would like to support the proposal that we not have the introductions. They took 21 minutes today, and we are cutting out important topics. And I agree with the person who said that we will get to know each other through our advocation of our peace work.
Are you suggesting this for the special meetings, or are you suggesting this for all of the meetings?
Not for the special, but for our meeting. Someone just proposed it. I'm seconding it because it just got two
All
people said
meetings.
we should drop all meetings.
Okay, should we take a vote? Anybody have any, is there any discussion about this?
Well, I think that it's minor discussion. I don't need to know. I mean, I like to know about the weather in California, but I'm sorry, I don't need to. I could read about it on my own. So I just don't think we need all the small chit chat beforehand, because then we miss out the important stuff.
Okay. All right, let's take a vote. Everybody in favor of cutting out the introductions at the beginning? Raise your hand, please, either electronically or Margot, I can't see you, so Margaret.
You
Hideko,
should ask who is objecting.
Is there anyone objecting? Please speak up.
I'm going to abstain on this one. It's a very long tradition of this committee, and it exists way before I joined the committee.
Maybe we can have a getting to know you after the business of the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought this about board meetings too. I don't think that, I really think that just meeting each other through your ideas of what we're talking about is so much more important. And I've thought that about actually most of these WILF calls in which they do that check-in. So,
well, maybe we can say who we are and where we're from. Just go around and do that, because we have newcomers, and it helps them to know who we are.
I don't even think that's necessary, because everybody speaks up, hopefully, and they'll have your name on the thing. And I mean, if there's newcomers, okay. But I think most of us are we know each other almost. So if there's someone new, it might be worthwhile doing that. But in other words, no.
Since I'm new here, I do appreciate if someone gives their name and where they're located. I would find that helpful. Just that I am this name and I live in XYZ, and that's it.
And we could actually put that on our thing. I could modify my name so it says where I'm from, if that's what you want too. Just an idea. I'm not saying, but.
Oh, deal.
We could do a quick go around with name and location.
Philip.
I think that makes sense.
My suggestion is I support the ideal, and I would include the discussion of anybody having technological issues with their own computer, because that takes up quite a bit of time at the beginning of every meeting. Either they cannot find something on their own computer or cannot do something. And to avoid people being without any help, maybe we should have a help number put into the chat or broadcast before the meeting starts. And if you have any problems with your own computer, that you call that person who volunteered to be the help person. Otherwise, we spend 5 to 10 minutes of every Zoom meeting I've been on discussing why somebody cannot find certain aspects of the Zoom platform. Thank you.
Okay, Diane, did you have your hand still raised?
Well, Philip, I don't think that happened tonight, and I don't know who that person would be. So right off that suggestion, you'd have to find that person.
Okay, so we still have we voted? We haven't, we don't have any objections. We have one abstention. And some people we couldn't see voting, but those who did vote said yes. So shall we say that we're going to try doing it how? So that we say, hi, I'm Ellen and I live in North Carolina, and move on to the next person and get it over in a very short period of time?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I think that's important if someone cannot rename themselves. If you look at my visual right now, my name is Dash from Boston, and not everyone's able to do that. So mentioning the name and where you're from might be necessary if you can't rename yourself with the picture we have in Zoom.
Okay, can we move on now? We're going to do that next time.
Yes.
McGregor, did you have something that you wanted to say about the Vandenberg?
Yes, I did. I have been talking to Greg Mello, but I am going to be working through Defuse Nuclear War because they're fully engaged in it. And I'm going to be participating in a group that they're forming for Northern California. So I'll still stay in touch with WILPF, but the next launch is going to be literally any minute, because the last one was February, April. We're now closing in on September. It will be soon. And it looks like we'll have people nearby to protest it. And there's other people now who see it as important, people who are closer, people in Santa Barbara, people in Los Angeles, and particularly the people from Defuse Nuclear War. So I will be working with them, not with WILPF.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
For you. Yes. Okay, actions around Hiroshima and Nagasaki commemoration days.
So, well, officially, I was going to talk about the preparatory conference, but you're going to put that off now.
I'm sorry. But
that's all right, because Odile,
Well,
you're gonna
you could say a couple words about it.
Yeah. So every 5 years, the NPT is reviewed in entirety. Between, they have these things they call preparatory meetings, where essentially the same states get together to discuss what's going on with implementation of the treaty, which includes disarmament by everybody, Article 6. And so there was a big meeting in Vienna, and if you read what was coming out of Reaching Critical Will, they explained what was happening. They ended up with no final document, arguing on procedure about documents that were to be included. The chair in the past has given a summary of the chair, which happened to be a man from Finland, a summary of what's happened, a summary of where we stand. They wouldn't even let his summary go forward. Okay, so this is what happened. The last 2 review conferences, there's been no final statement from the NPT, from the states who've ratified it. Okay, so it's ratified by a whole bunch of people in 1975, but nothing's happening. Instead, you've got the US and Russia and China increasing the number of weapons, modernizing their weapons, going completely against what the treaty says they agreed to do, 35 years ago. So people are frustrated about this. The UN Office of Disarmament Affairs seems to have no power to push them along. And when Odile says there's some action items, I'm not seeing that, Odile, in what I'm seeing. So you need to write to me and show me which statements you're talking about from Reaching Critical Will actually have the kind of actions that the rest of us should be doing. My impression of Reaching Critical Will is they're very good at attending things, writing summaries, analyzing what's happening, but I don't see them as an action-oriented organization. So if you've seen some of that in their late,
I will send it this week.
Yes, but send me Send it, please.
After the minutes.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is so frustrating. NGOs were allowed to speak. They had a 10 minutes assigned to, I think, 17 different NGOs, addressed the whole meeting, making the usual pleas and asking for things like common security, helping the Marshallese, all those topics that come out, and then pointing out the TPNW is sitting there waiting for us to get more people onto that. So this is the core mission of our committee. We're called Disarm because we're looking for disarmament, and so we need to concentrate on this. The TPNW will be coming up, and we'll talk about that later in a couple things. I see Diane's hand.
It's Robin's. Go ahead, Robin.
Robin's hand.
So just a quick response. There is something that Reaching Critical Will can do, and that is to refuse to take part in this charade of being on the Disarmament Committee, which they threatened to do about 4 years ago. I wrote an article about it, which I will send out. They were just totally exasperated, and I think that's what's happening again. And thank you, Odile, for bringing it to our attention.
Which committee did the Reaching Critical Will say they didn't like?
It's the first International Committee on Disarmament.
Right, the UN committee. They're not talking about this committee.
The UN committee.
A UN committee, right. Okay, but they have not, they do attend these meetings. They do very good analyses and reports. So that's all I'm going to say. And then I know that I did 3 different things for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I did one thing in Palo Alto. I did another thing in Santa Cruz. When I was here last weekend, I joined a lot of organizations in Santa Cruz at the clock tower. And then I was outside Lockheed Martin on Nagasaki Day complaining about their involvement with nuclear weapons. So briefly, and then you are to send me and Ellen the photographs and a short report of what you did, because we'll put it in the e-news. Odile sent.
Did you get my photograph?
Yes. And I
did an action with the French ICANN and the anti-nuclear movement in Val-Duc. This is where the French have 290 nuclear weapons. They keep it there. So we are told. Anyway, and there is not much difference in the French position. And they were speaking a lot about Iran in a not very good way. So I feel we need to respect other countries like Iran. Iran, Syria, and Russia objected to a lot of things because of the European position on Iran, and they felt disrespected. So that was one of the things that happened at this NPT.
Anyone else have a report? I was in Asheville, North Carolina. We had a silent vigil. With lots of signs. McGregor?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
The most moving thing was February 4th at Lawrence Livermore, where Patricia Ellsberg was talking about Dan and his last days and how dedicated he was and how meant it much to him. So that was extremely beautiful. The Dan Ellsberg Memorial that was part of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki that was held at the 4th at Lawrence Livermore. And then on the 5th, down in Monterey, we had our Lovers Point 19th year of the Monterey branch of WILPF. And they send in the report and the pictures to WILPF. It's not, I just helped with some of the publicity and the work, but so the 2 events, very beautiful.
And the one at Livermore had, I think they said 80 people there.
It was a crowd, yes.
And it was live streamed.
Well, we haven't received the pictures from those. So
Okay,
if you know somebody that you could ask to send them to Disarm Chair,
I'll try to send.
thank
Oh.
you.
Ask Mary and Leah.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
Mary, thank you. Oh, not
Okay.
I was going to send for our lantern ceremony. The
Yes.
pictures are all over Tri-Valley Cares. The website is full of them. I don't have any pictures from that. I didn't take any there.
No.
So
They
Ellen,
have
you
Whatever ones you have with a description, please, to Disarm Chair at
that would
wilpfus.org.
be the Monterey ones, and then you should go to the
Yeah.
Tri-Valley Cares and pick up some of theirs, borrow
Yeah,
some of theirs.
I can go to that site.
Yeah, because I didn't take any photographs there. I didn't take any photographs at the other one either. I'll just send the Wilf Branch ones if I can. I'll see if I can get them. Yeah. Okay.
All
I'll
right,
send them.
great. Take some at Vandenberg also. Please.
No, I don't take pictures.
Well, get
I
somebody
can't.
else to do it.
I
Move the
And
agenda.
All right, move the agenda. Okay. So I don't have anything to report on Nortonsville. The Golden Rule is on its way to Detroit if they haven't
In
gotten
Detroit,
there already.
in Detroit today.
Okay.
In Detroit today, Laura Dewey asked me for information they were going to table at the dock. So she got flyers and petitions and what have you. So it was to be there today. So that's and I'll talk to the people about the TPNW meeting in November. I will talk to the people who said they're interested in going about the fact that the YMCA near the UN is not taking any requests for rooms at the moment. I don't know. It seems to be closed as a hotel. So
Here. Eileen, do you have your hand up?
I'm going to put it down. It was just a quiet vigil considering it in Watertown, my area. Go ahead, just go on.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right, so the editor of Peace and Freedom has asked for articles on the theme of underreported conflicts around the world and paths to peace by late September at the latest. And this is not an issue that I'm aware of people on the Disarm committee are working on, but I could very well be wrong. And I would like to know, Cheryl would also, if there's anybody that has anything that you think you or somebody could write about that isn't being covered by the major media anywhere in the world.
right, and we did, yeah. So the Peace and Freedom must have a committee that discusses what their themes will be. They did not consult with us. Instead, we just got this request: underreported conflicts around the world.
I have a suggestion. I think asking Charlotte Dennett, who is in the gathering, if she keeps up with the oil industry, that's her specialty. It has been for decades. She might be more aware of any underreported things going on right now. What about you, Robin? I noticed a hand just popped up. Are you aware of anything?
Yeah, in fact, Cheryl has written an article about it's either in Azerbaijan or nearby states that is, if it's not a little war now, it's going to be a war soon, and she's analyzed the whole thing. I'm sure she'd love to submit it to Peace and Freedom.
Who are you talking about? Not me.
Charlotte Dennett.
Oh, Charlotte Dennett. Okay. Also, I know there's an internal conflict in an Indian state that's not being very well, but that's a civil war. That's between groups. So I don't know if she wants. It's a conflict. It's a conflict anyway. It's a conflict. Yes.
Oh dear.
Well, I
This is
certainly don't have
McGregor?
any time.
Oh
Yeah.
dear.
There is still the conflict going on in Congo that's underreported.
Yes,
Can
I
you
would
write
propose
something about it?
In
Which
Congo,
Which Congo?
The French, well, I don't know, it's called the French Congo.
As was
It's,
the French.
It's not near the capital on the other side, so that must be the western side, I think, of Congo. There is a doctor that a lot of women are being abused and raped and maimed, and that's where they get all the titanium or the whatever they put in our phone, the
Lithium.
mines. They are Belgium mines there,
Yeah.
and they favor, there is a lot of rebels that are burning the village and destroying the people.
Odile, do you know any source of information or person who could write something for the Peace and Freedom?
I would have to think about it, but I knew a woman. I don't know if I can get in touch with her. Yes.
So are you meaning the Democratic Republic of Congo? That's what I'm
Exactly,
trying to-
DRC, yes.
Yeah, DRC.
DRC. Don't we have a WILF member from there? A WILF
She's
US
back and
entity?
I could talk with her. She's extremely busy as a nurse. And she couldn't even get back with me when I called her on her return because I had presented in her community the public banking presentation with Ruth Kaplan, another issue that they need. And
Excuse me,
I can talk with her and see if she could write.
excuse me.
Or she may know someone else who could.
Yeah, are we talking
Or-
about,
That's a good point.
Jean?
are we talking about Bibiane Peshfu?
No, Julia Kabugyani,
Well,
Kabukani, sorry.
Bibiane Peshfu, where is the, she was related to Lumumba, who was attacked by our authorities. I don't know if she's still active, but I do have a telephone number for her. I can call, but I'm not going to write about it. I would like to write about Iranian women because I've had a long experience with Iran and Iranian women. I will just poke around and see if I can get some information. I don't have any contact right now, but I will see what I can pursue because I just think that is so very, very relevant.
Valerie Mogadan, a Northeastern professor who has been at the gathering in the past, is a Iranian woman who keeps up on this topic and other Middle East issues. And she's a member of WILF and Mass Peace Action.
She's writing right now an article for the Peace and Freedom regarding the Middle East. And she's doing it right now, Valerie Mogadam. She's a professor in Boston and she's a member of WILF.
University, correct.
And she's part of the Middle East Committee, MEPJAC.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, so she's very active doing it right now.
It's very important.
That's good.
Okay, so that's covered.
Yeah,
Good.
all right. Robin, you have done some made some contacts with respect to Africa. Are there any other places? I know it's really, there's some difficult stuff going on all over Africa now.
Yeah, no, none come to mind right now. Maybe my mind is a bit frazzled from being at the gathering all this weekend.
This is McGregor. There have been this is McGregor, there have been 3 military coups, starting with the country of Niger, and then Burkina Faso, and a third country that I cannot remember. But they are all in the Sahel, S-A-H-E-L, area of Africa.
Well, if you're doing Sudan.
It's in the Sahel, S-A-H-E-L.
But the big one
country
is
of Niger.
The big one.
I'm
is,
just saying there were coups, and the Wagner group was implicated, and the U.S. is implicated also, and I don't understand it. It's very complicated, but it seems quite important. I've been listening to it, discussions on Democracy Now! And other places, and doing my best to catch up. And I'll continue to try to look into it, but if other people could also, there's some good articles coming out now that are more insightful. But there were 3 coups.
Okay, so we have a commitment from Jean to write an article.
No, I said I would do it, Ron, but she says, Eileen says that there is a woman in
Who's
Massachusetts.
doing it? Okay.
So I just wanted to emphasize that the Sudan is a very rich area with gold and coltan and other resources. And that's also had a coup, a big coup. And so somebody should pursue that. That's even more important than Central African Republic and others that have been named, not Niger.
Yeah, that's important.
Niger is being talked about now, that
But I'm
Sudan.
not talking about Niger, I'm talking about the Sudan.
Right, right. But
country.
they're asking for places that aren't being talked about.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, but they're not very much talked about, even Sudan. It's not very much in the
I don't
news.
think- I agree. I agree.
And there's very little analysis. It's just mentioned. It's not discussed or analyzed or put into context.
Right.
I would be willing, just as a research project, to try to pull together some reputable sources on that situation and share it. I'd be willing to do some research for my own edification, if nothing else. And if anyone wants to know what I found out, I'm willing to share it, but I would like to try to know more about that.
Yeah, I'd like to know, McGregor. Let me know. This is Ellen.
Yeah,
I will
let
share it.
let me know also, Odile.
Okay.
I'm
Very rich.
interested too, Eileen here.
It's very rich
Okay.
agriculturally and with gold and coltan.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. So we've
Okay,
got homework.
what's left on the agenda?
Okay, so Cheryl mentioned the Oppenheimer films and the trifold flyer, which we talked about last time. And she was wondering what people's experience was with the general public, if you did any circulating of the new flyer.
Which flyer is that?
The trifold flyer that Cheryl and I put out a couple of weeks
Yes.
before Oppenheimer came out.
Ellen,
Yes.
we
Yes.
used it and it was very good at our lantern ceremony, talking about the whole implications, because people were talking about the film. But when the films are shown in malls, our mall, you cannot pass out anything. It's not political. The religious people can't pass out anything either. It's just very controlled when it's in a mall, a Cineplex inside of a mall. When it's on a street, it's different, but in my town, it's in a mall. So other events, we were able to use it, and it was a good trifold, very well done.
I agree. I've been to 3. I passed out at 3 before the showing and then 1 after so far. And I'll continue. And I also made an announcement at the ceremony for NNH, and a Globe reporter approached me and wanted me to make a statement. And I said, well, I'm speaking for myself, but this pamphlet is from my organization, which he took. We looked for an article on what we did. The director of Mass Peace Action was the main speaker, and others of us had done short things. And it turned out the Globe put this size article. I mean, it was saying hardly anything at all. It was very disappointing. Mm-hmm. So, it's the media in the pocket of military industrial complex, I believe. And controlling the media, basically.
Somehow we have to help them understand that if Norton's bill goes into effect, the money that's being spent on weapons will be used to spend on transforming the factories so they're making things that we need instead of destruction. And it really needs to continue to be pushed. We need to keep that on our agenda. That's my only thing that I want to say about the Norton bill right now. But
I've had my hand up for a while.
oh, okay, sorry. Yes, Judith.
I have it up because I have to leave around 6:30. And I've been given 8 minutes and it's already 6:17, so I'm getting nervous.
Oh dear, I'm sorry. Did I miss you? Okay, well, go.
Oh, okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, I have 8 minutes, so I want to put my thing on a timer here and see how much I take up. Because I want to start out by telling you 2 stories. This has to do with the fact that I'm a writer and that I'm very aware of words. And at the last Disarm meeting, when I put forward the proposal for Project Enduring Peace, and there was a rationale that had several paragraphs to explain, 2 pages to explain why this is the thing to do and why to do it now. And you all got a copy, I believe, that Cheryl sent everybody a copy of the latest version, version 7. And there were, what this has to do with words is I'm a writer. And you learn when you're a writer that there are certain rules about that has to do with craft. And rule number 1 is if you're giving this presentation to a bunch of people, like 20 people, and you're writing a piece about a piece, you're reading the piece to them. And one person says, you know, I really don't like that thing that you just said. I don't like that word. Well, you can say and think, it's just one person's opinion. I'm the writer, it's my opinion. But if a second person is listening and says, I also don't like that. It doesn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. Now you have to listen. Now you listen. And if a third person mentions the very same problem, you have to get rid of it. Because those people each one represents hundreds and hundreds of potential readers. So what happened to me was there were 3 people who said right away, in one way or the other, I don't believe in sanctions, or I don't like sanctions, because I'm arguing that we've had peace treaties before, but if they have no means of enforcement, they don't work. That's why Russia is invading another country, because they're not sufficient sanctions to stop somebody. So I was worried about that. I said, okay, well, we can't use that word. That one person did say, I understand that the way you're setting it up is that these will be a guard in which they will never actually have to be applied. But I want you to know that I don't believe in sanctions. So I started thinking what to do. The next day I was talking with my friend who is a personal trainer, and she has 2 children, 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I'm explaining this problem I'm having for this project I've got, what to do about it. And she said, well, basically what you're talking about is the consequences of bad behavior. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. What will be the consequences for bad behavior? So I invite all of you now to read the rationale again. Paragraph 3 is the only one that's changed. There's 7 versions. If you read paragraph 3, you will see how it has been rewritten and rethought. I rethought the whole situation about how to put teeth into this peace treaty. And in fact, what I wanted to do is keep the rationale to only 2 pages. I want it to be short. It has to go on what will be the web page for this movement. And if you put it on the web page, you can't make it too long, but I want the rationale there. I want it to be short. So paragraph 3 couldn't explain everything. And I decided then I needed to write a separate piece. And that was the piece that Cheryl also sent to all of you, and I hope you read. And and it explains in more detail or outlines a better feeling for how such a treaty would work and how these consequences for bad behavior fit into the treaty that we are hoping to secure. And what I'd really like from y'all is if you've read them and you have any questions or things that you still don't like or questions that you have, I would love it if you would email me and let me know those things, because I want this thing to be as good as it can be, because I want to put it on the website so that everybody from the public around the world can go there and read it and have a good grasp of what's the goal here? What is the project that we're working on? Because someone mentioned, don't lose your focus, be very single-minded on what you're doing. This is a single-minded project to secure this binding global peace treaty. So that's one thing I want to talk about. The other thing was to let you have a feeling for where we would go next, providing WILPF gives its blessing to this project. And that the next step would have to be to put together, Anne and I would start reaching out to women who we believe would be good members of a steering committee. We have talked and think maybe no more than a baker's dozen, like 13, because if the steering committee is too large, you lose time in debating and you can't reach consistency. This needs to be a lean project. It has to be able to change its mind, change direction, and do things quickly. So we figured no more than maybe 13, but no less than 8 women who love this, who believe in it, who want to do it and have the time and energy to do the work, because that will be the problem, is finding women who have the skills, the background, and the love of the idea of getting this treaty. But almost all those women are already very, very busy doing other things. So we will have to reach out to women so for example, women who are really big on empowering women and all the good things that would bring about to the world. Because this project is set up to be a humongous empowering of women movement. It's a woman-led, a woman-directed movement of all the women of the world to come together to get this treaty to be done, that the world community says we are done with international wars. No more Russia's invade Ukraine's. We're done with it. Well, how do we get to there? Well, that's the details that I've explained elsewhere. So I've lost my train of thought a little bit. Where was I? Reaching out to women who are interested in empowering women, because this project would be a major, the Andre's groups that he's put together, the women that he's named, I know most of them. I've met a lot of them myself, and I've just been waiting for the right moment. When will the time be right that we have the right thing that we can do and all these women can join together to make it happen and let the whole world know that this is what we're going to do. We're going to achieve this. That would be one woman. Another person on the steering committee might be a woman who has worked on treaties before, and she feels she's an expert on this, and she would like to be one of the mothers of this movement and get on the steering committee. So that would be the very next step. And the first step, however, will be for whether this committee decides to send my rationale and the other piece that I wrote to go with it. If you think it's good enough, if you want me to make a few more corrections, but if they're willing to say, yeah, we'll pass it on to the WILPF board, because that is the very next, that's a blocker. If the WILPF board does not embrace this movement, well, then I'm going to have to rethink again. And so I appreciate your listening, and I hope you'll take a look at those 2 things that Cheryl sent you. And by the way, I don't know if we have any time left. No, that's just about it. So, but you can email me and I will spend all my time. That's all I do. I will answer any of your questions if you email me. Do you have my email? By the way, I think it's in the.
How about putting your contact info, your email and phone number in the chat?
Okay, I'll do that right
Anybody
now.
who is interested in connecting with you will be able to do so. And if others want to put your name in the chat to let her know that you're interested, then in participating, that would be really good too.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I
All
do right now.
Any questions, any comments?
There's a Diane and or Robin have put in the chat. Is there a way to reunite Andre's and Judith's work / goals? So that's not necessarily to be discussed tonight, but that's the thought that they wanted to share.
I would love to respond very quickly. I thought about it because I've known Andre's work for years. He and I got together many years ago, and we agree on two things. Women are the key. The women of the world are the key to changing a big paradigm shift in human history. And we also agree that the focus should be on doing it for children. That's another way we agree. However, the first thing I would do when WILPF gives us the blessing is I was going to ask Andre if he wanted to be an advisor to the steering committee. He cannot be on the steering committee because it must be, and it must be seen to be, a woman-directed and woman-led movement forever, consistently, without question. We're going to have everybody, we'll invite every man, woman, whatever your religion, your philosophy, your political persuasion. We're going to have movement that'll include millions, hopefully, of people around the world, being encouraged by the women of their country to get involved with this. But it has to be, and this comes from my biological background. If you read my work, if you go to my website, by the way, you can go to my website, which is afuturewithoutwar.org. A Future Without War. Spent 20 years developing it, essays, all kind of other stuff. What I'd recommend you go to is on the left-hand side, the nav bar at the top says Overview. And you'll get a drop-down list that offers study guide. Overview, study guide. And the study guide lumps all of the mini papers and essays and book reviews, all these things. It groups them by topic. So if you're interested in why women, you can go on all the links that lead to the essays and so on, why my movement is built around one of the key ingredients. There are many, but one of the keys, big keys, is women. Anyway, I got to go back to typing my email here.
Odile has her hand up.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
there is a man, we have a vigil against the war in Ukraine every week in Ann Arbor. And there is a man that came and wore a sign saying, "Women must save the world, women must end the war in Ukraine." And the group gathered, and the women of the group felt there was kind of paternalistic for this man to tell women who are already doing the work that we must be doing more, or the woman must, so they felt it was very paternalistic. And they asked him not to wear that sign anymore. So I just want to say that we had kind of this attitude against men telling us what we must do.
Well, I'm sympathetic because I'm a woman who has been a feminist for 50 years or more now. However, I look at it in a completely different way. I have many on my Facebook page. Some of my best followers are men, and they are the men who have recognized the spirit that women would bring to issues of conflict and peace. And the men, they have recognized that they can't do it. These are men who are somewhat enlightened. Anthony is example of such a man. He's realized that men are not going to do it. They've had thousands of years to do it. In fact, what you see around here is the result of men making decisions about how the world should be run. A lot of men have concluded that if you're going to get a big paradigm shift, women can't sit back anymore, because we do sit back. women have to learn how to assert themselves. And by the way, we've only been learning in that lesson after we got the vote, and then we got some education, and then we got some jobs, and then we got some positions of power, and some women began to tell us, no, you mustn't just sit back. You must step forward and say, listen to me. I want my raise. I want this. Women by nature, this is my biological background. Women by nature approach social situations in ways to diffuse conflict. They don't like to agitate things and stir things up naturally. But they can learn that they must assert themselves. Quite often, in many cultures, they're assertive in their homes. Women are powerful in their homes in many, many societies. But in patriarchies, they are kept out of the public sphere. And that's what runs whether we have wars or not. So I would say to those women, hey, if a guy comes by and says, you women have got to save the world, I'd say, we're on it, brother. We're on our way right now. We get it, and we're rising right now all over the world. That's the way I would look at that, as a positive.
We're all human beings.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, it is now 9:30 here, 6:30 in California. We've been going for 2 hours. Do we have anything else that we need to cover here? That we don't have anything to say about the treasurer's report? We're going to have an election for a third co-chair on the 27th of August meeting. And we have one nomination, Diane Blay, who is very overworked, but has kindly said that she doesn't mind being nominated but it would be nice if somebody else would step up. Right, Diane? Is that how you would put it?
That would be lovely if someone else would step up. Yeah.
Yeah. So be thinking about it, and you can nominate by sending to Disarm Chair, and we can vote on the 27th. And
Strictly speaking, today, by the guidelines, today is the last day.
Oh, is that right?
Somebody can be nominated.
Okay.
So if you want to nominate somebody else, you do it by midnight your time, please. And I'm leaving now. I don't want to miss the beginning of this concert. They won't let me in if I'm late, and I have to drive a little ways. So please carry on. Don't stop on my account. I will listen. I will see Odil's notes. I can listen to the recording. Thank you very much for a very engaged meeting. Okay, I'm leaving, but you all can keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Have a good time.
Thank you.
Oh, Robin wants to say something. It's confusing with both of us. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel that something I didn't mention about our gathering this weekend with Medea Benjamin, that we discussed the threat that is coming towards progressive movements.
Yes.
Started with, or that was articulated in the New York Times about a week ago, of accusing Jody Evans, especially the co-chair of Code Pink, of being soft on China. After all, she runs through Code Pink. China is not our enemy. Duh, but you know, that's being seen as subversive now in some circles. And this is a very serious, I think, growing threat, not only to Code Pink, but to us. And we need to be aware of it. I hope you've all seen that New York Times article, and it was published elsewhere as well. And it's based on the Marxist millionaire who gives money to progressive organizations.
The husband of Jody Evans.
Yes.
I was confused. The husband of Jody Evans is living in China, or
Yes.
Yeah.
He moved to China.
He goes back and forth, I'm sure.
And so does she.
I would like to say, as the person who posts articles for Nuke News and WILPF Smart, that I don't have a subscription to New York Times, and if you've got a good article and you have a subscription, it would be helpful if you would paste the article into your email when you send it so that we can all read it, because not everybody pays for it.
Okay, it was sent out. I don't know who got
Right.
it. I'd have to look again. But what is missing are the pictures with the captions underneath. And the last caption said, Code Pink is pro-China. I mean, it's like it's horrible. And
It is.
pro-China, well, I want to be pro everyone. I want to, the world to be. Anyway, so I read that article and I was immediately upset, and I wrote to Darian right away. And then afterwards, that McCarthy article came out, etc. But yeah, so I could get it to you somehow, to the Disarm committee if everyone hasn't seen it already. I guess I thought most people had.
I have it printed out, but
Since everyone is just talking, let me talk. I wanted to say that not only is this very, very wealthy husband of Jody Evans accused of supplementing leftist causes, Code Pink is strongly suggested or even accused of not supporting the cause of the Uyghurs, and therefore not wise in the ways of human rights. It's really very much pointed toward the failure of China to support human rights. And that's the basis for its being opposed to China. It's a very complicated, long article, and we should all read it.
Yeah, it's indeed. Code Pink has gotten $1 million from Jody's husband's business. Think of all the Republicans who have been giving out money to various organizations, including organizations that are for peace. It's quite interesting. I tuned into what Medea said, that she is restricted in what she can say. They're being advised by some very intelligent people. And I'm just going to follow their lead. I'm sorry. I don't want to mess up that situation with some statement that may be used against them and us, and that's where I stand. I have my hand up for another reason. Please, this book that I mentioned early on, The $1 Trillion Silencer, Why There's So Little Anti-War Protests in the United States, is worth trying to get your hands on. It's not in libraries. It has to be ordered. I drove 2 hours into New Hampshire and then back in rain to get this and read it. There are some answers in that are worth considering. It's a frustrating.
Well, why didn't you send us the answers, Eileen, since it seems like it might be difficult to get the book, and we could discuss that.
Because it's important to know all the facts that that I was not aware of, as well as the answers. It's not enough. I found that when I began looking at the facts can be used against them, is the feeling I got from. It's intertwined, basically. But I can give you some general. I already did at the gathering. I can do more of that. But it has more of an impact if you know what the heck all her homework in the first. It's a short book, by the way. It's only 200 pages. And the answers are basically in the last chapter, which is only about 10 pages or maybe 12. There's a lot of other ammo. Thank you. Enough for me.
Okay. All right, Jean, you have
I
your
just
hand
have to
raised.
say, there's been a lot of grandiosity in this discussion, and I think it's magnificent. But I also think we have to tailor our goals to what we can actually do. And I want to praise Ellen Thomas, who's a marvelous organizer. We have to think what we can organize and how long it takes and the effort it takes. That's one point. And the other point is I believe in sanctions, and I will tell you why, but I'm not going to get into it. And yes, we're all writers and we all are interested in words. So that was an example of someone talking about their self-introduction. So if we're going to talk about self-introductions, which we had a discussion about, that might be a consideration, even when we're in part of a discussion about an issue.
Okay, I'm going to call an end to this meeting. It's been fabulous. I've really appreciated everything everybody had to say. I want to tell you I love y'all, and I will be at the next meeting, which is on Sunday, the 20th at 7:30 p.m., which is not the regular Disarm meeting. The regular Disarm meeting is on the 27th, when we will elect our third co-chair. Andre, you would like to say some last words here?
I just wanted to ask if next week is good for anyone. I'll send, when I send my the materials to the email Disarm discussion group, then please respond to me if next week is good, and I'll send out a link for that.
Well, we'll just use this link.
Oh, and so I would be able to send it, or just use that link. Yeah, just that's fine.
Yeah.
But then for I'd be able to use the share. Is that correct? It's always
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always available. Okay.
Yep. I
That's
can
good.
make you a co-host too.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Odile, get some rest.
Bye.
I'll send you the link so that you can
Bye.
review the
Peace and
review
love.
the video for your minutes, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Save the chat.
Hélène,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, do you have to write what everybody said or just the decision?
Just what you think is important that people be aware of.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm. I was doing it, writing what everybody said, because that was actually easiest for me, because I'm a really fast typist, and then I don't have to think about it. But you go ahead and just get the important information in there is just fine.
Okay, yes, thank you.
All right, everybody got your chat? I'm going to close it. Ciao.